On the air, Drum Talk TV winding down. I can't believe I'm saying this, number 7, 2024.
Yeah.
Evan Antonopoulos joining us for, the first time in freaking years.
Yeah.
Years and years. Welcome, Seven Antonopoulos. How are you?
I'm good. I'm actually in a hotel room in Houston, Texas.
Never heard
now.
of it.
Yeah, it's a thing.
A small shuttle, right?
Yeah, it's cool. But you look great. It's been quite a while since we've seen each other. You know, you always, I stalk you on the red carpets over
Same
various
here,
drum
right?
events, you know.
Yeah. Funny thing though, like we haven't spoken like this or on the phone or Zoom or in person in a very long time, but we follow each other. We've stayed in touch. And I want to start this interview off with kind of I don't know if it's funny, peculiar, kind of a fun story that you are so integral about. May I?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So I
sir.
started Drum Talk TV in January of 2013. 2014 was the first NAMM show that Lori Shube joined me on. Lori Shube is like my sister that I never had. I have a sister, but Lori's like more my sister.
Gotcha.
And she joined Drum Talk TV 3 months after I started the company. And the 2014 NAMM show was the first show. So she's tagging along. We're doing interviews. She's watching, observing. She was our chief digital officer. And after about 9 or 12 interviews the first day, and you were the last one before she said what I'm going to say, she said, I got to tell you something. And I said, what? And at the time, I have to preface this by saying at the time you had very long black hair, jet black hair. You got your tats and everything.
Yeah.
And she said, as scary, and I mean this in a loving way, as scary as a lot of drummers look, they're the most gentlemanly musicians I've ever met. And I said, word. I said, drummers are like the hockey musicians. Everyone thinks hockey players are such brutes because they do let them blow some steam off on the ice, right? And drummers are looked at as cavemen and just so brutal, but we're so educated and well-spoken and so knowledgeable because we're hyper intelligent, because we're drummers.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that.
That's great.
And you were a huge part of
she
that.
noticed that too. I appreciate it, man. That was 20. Was that the 2014 the
NAMM
bash
show?
NAMM
show and Bonzo Bash.
And the Bonzo Bash that Brian Tichy and Joe Sutton used to put on. Got it.
Absolutely. And we covered that for the first time that year. And you're part of that story that embodies what drummers.
Well, and then I was at your booth 2018. Damn.
That's right.
2018 was actually, that's the last time I've been to NAMM, if you can imagine.
Gosh, I can't believe how long ago that was.
And I did that great interview with that amazing doctor.
That's
you, Emily Azar.
Oh my gosh, she's gonna kill me.
She's gonna kill me.
Dr. Azar, we'll leave it at that.
Dr. Azar.
Kill me.
Yeah,
oh my
and
gosh.
we talked about, and I had just had wrist surgery, so it was very
drumming injury talk.
It was pertinent to the situation, and
yeah.
But so, man, well, here we are.
And how are you now? You have so much going on with Channel Zero. Like when I learned just today from producer Steven that your farewell shows are going to be in December of not this year, not next year, 2026. I was like, dude, that's like planning ahead. And he said, the first show sold out immediately. Talk about that. Let's start at the end of the Channel Zero career, work backwards in your drumming life.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that for sure. And I guess I'll preface it with, I've been in Channel Zero for 10 years. Mikey Doling, who was the original guitar player in Snot, amazing band. And also he had tenure with Soulfly with Max Cavalera, etc. So anyway, their drummer unfortunately had at 45 years old, had a brain aneurysm, and they were on the fence. This was in 2013, incidentally. And they were on the fence about whether or not they were going to continue as a band. But after long and hard soul searching and discussions, and so they decided to go on. But there was not going to be a cattle call, And because of Mikey and I's 20 at that time, 20 plus year relationship, it just kind of fell in, and it turned out to be my family for the last 10 years. You know, it's like
Yeah.
we're blood brothers. Musically, we're just so kind of there. And as far as putting an expiration date on our band, it's kind of like the band's, been around since it's like 1994. And platinum records, gold records, the things, the festivals, the tours, and that's what it's been the last 10 years. It's like Mikey flies over. I was living in Stockholm, Sweden. We'll get into that,
Yeah.
how all that changed. But, I would fly in, we would do a week of pre-production, then we would do Grass Pop or like Nova Rock or what, like Alcatraz, like all these huge festivals. And then that was kind of our summer. We would do like 3-4 weeks worth of touring, and then usually like a small bus run for, a month or whatever. And that's kind of how it's been. And then all of us within that framework, right? Like my singer Frankie owns a brewery, right? So he has a Belgian beer brewery, and Tino, the guitar player, or the bass player rather, he's a fantastic tattoo artist, and he has a shop that he owns. And Doling is still producing, and he's still doing all kinds of stuff. He has a side project called Wyote with Aaron Nordstrom from Gemini Syndrome.
Wait,
Amazing.
back up. Where's the tattoo shop?
It's in Brussels.
Okay, because I have a tattoo I need to have redone.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I just got this one, so that's my latest.
Oh, that's cool. Brussels is a bit of a road trip for me, but I fell into one of my rose bushes, and my tattoo has a big across it. It's like, I don't know if people can see it, but it's got like this scar across it somewhere.
That's character, Dan.
And I drew that myself, by the way. That's mine.
I love that.
I'm the only one that has that. It's my design. So I need to redo. But yeah,
I love that.
This is interesting.
So here we are. Here we are, right? Everybody's, I hate to say it, age us, right? We're all kind of 50. You know what I mean? 50s-ish.
And I'm in my 60s, so I can say, "Hey, you guys,
yeah, but you look 40, you look 40 years old. Come on." But the thing is, it's not that we're not successful. It's not that we don't enjoy playing anymore. I just think when you have this type of thing, and if you're gonna do it, go out on top. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, don't fizzle. Anything kind of and when you do it like this, our 25 is going to be amazing, right? We're going to do tons of European festivals, and then in 26, it's going to be very strategic. We're going to do 2 huge festivals yet to be named, but you can imagine, we're talking about Belgium and Holland.
Right.
And then we have, as of now, 3 shows sold out at the Ancien Belgique, the AB Theater, which is it's like one of my favorite venues on earth. It's amazing. It holds like damn near 2,000, but it's a situation where we're going to be doing multiple nights. And when we had our 30th anniversary shows, and that was in 21, we sold out, like, I think it was 3 or 4 nights or whatever. And now that we've announced that this is how we're going to end the chapter, we've already sold out 3, and I believe they're going to end up adding more. So that's kind of the short version, but none of us, there was no drama. It's just like, hey man, maybe it's
save the milk before it turns to cheese.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, I'm still playing, and I'm still, Mikey and I have our thing, and we could talk about, how I ended up in Austin, Texas,
Yeah. And I want to talk about Stockholm, but first, let me ask you this, Seven. What are the chances, in your own hypothesis, or have you talked about this with the guys? What if between now and then you guys just magically come up with a bunch of material, you guys realize we're better than ever, and maybe we don't want to put the expiration date at that time, and you continue? Is there a chance of that?
Yeah, I don't know, because we're all pretty pragmatic and pretty reasonable, and we're all kind of at that age,
right?
We I don't see Live Nation coming at us with Motley Crue offers, right? Like they retired, and then, well, now we're not retired,
right? But you don't need
Um,
that to continue on with your creativity and selling out shows like you're talking about.
true, true, 100%. But it's a group decision. Um, that's kind of
We'll see
that's
where it
kind of
goes.
yeah, yeah.
Is
But
there
I
gonna
I
be
I know the
like a
next 2 years.
filming of the last
Yeah,
show? Okay,
there's gonna be
good.
a lot of there's gonna be some documentary, like capturing that moment, right? The
Okay,
moment, those
good,
last couple years are gonna be documented.
great.
Um, but what we could, the thing is, it's been so long since we talked. Um, 2019, because when you and I met, and and I was living in Stockholm, Sweden,
Yeah,
and you had just started the channel, and I mean, I had a handful of drum students. I was playing in a few different cover bands, and I was still and I had just got the Channel Zero gig, and I was like, hey, this is what we're doing.
right.
And my ex-wife, Anna, was Swedish, and so I lived in Stockholm for 11 years. And all good things, right? I guess. So
Yeah,
end of 2019, we got separated and amicable, and everything's great. We're still super tight friends. Everything's
great.
cool. But this is a funny story. So I decide, look, I've done my time in Stockholm. Everything's cool. My channel gig is rolling. Everything's great. I'm a Texan. I miss home. I'm going home.
Oh, nice.
So I decide that you know what, get through January, get through the holidays, because we decided in November of 2019 that we were gonna,
Yeah,
finalize
right
everything.
before COVID.
Well, here's the kicker. I decided to move home. My flight from Stockholm was March 9th, and I landed in Dallas, Texas, in an empty one-bedroom apartment with three full gigantic North Face bags and my computer, and I shipped my entire DW rig that I had in storage in LA. And I think you saw that kick,
Yeah,
the gigantic matte black thing with
yeah,
all the rack and the
absolutely.
hardware. So I shipped all that, flight cases and everything. And I'm like, cool, fresh start. I'm in Dallas. Everything's cool. And then 5 days later, the world shuts down.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that was for you, but it was
Oh,
it was insane.
it was, I'll give you an idea. The previous December of 2019, my wife Anja and I spent a week or so in Bermuda. And we were
Wow.
in Bermuda because we were putting together the very first Drum Talk TV drumming percussion sort of retreat. And we were in Bermuda to scout out locations. We met with the government, we met with the travel bureau, and all this. We found places to not only hold the event, but extracurricular stuff like music therapy in a fucking cave, all this
Ah,
stuff. Yeah,
that's
we had
cool.
it set for John Bonham's birthday, would have been the kickoff, May 31st of
Wow.
2020
Wow.
through
That's cool.
June 10th. And then, like you say, COVID came and it all went off the books.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we
And
had a great
everybody
time in Bermuda.
oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah,
But everybody had to, and you're trying to figure out how to create content and still
yeah,
keep your channel rolling and maintain your subscribers and all the and yeah, man, it was a thing. It was
yeah,
we ended up not working at all. We did the following year in 2021. We went over and we did a few festivals that were with the pods. Like it would be a table of 10 or 12
yeah,
people, and then you couldn't really leave. And but Europe seemed to handle it a lot better than or more pragmatically, I guess, than
yeah.
the US did.
Australia, New Zealand as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but you know what? I love Texas. I lived in Dallas, for a couple years, and then my partner and I, she moved from Washington D.C., and we bought a house together in Austin a few
nice,
years ago. And
nice.
so musically, Dan, though, you need to come visit because Austin is insane. Like
I've heard that over
it's so
and over
cool.
and over. I need to
It's
do
like
that.
Nashville, but in Texas.
Well, Robert Plant lived there for quite a while, so I'm sold on that alone. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, and
So
there's quite a few folks, man. My buddy Johnny Moyer from Disturbed, he lives here. He's a Texan, and there's all, like Zach Blair from Rise Against, he's a Texan, he lives in Austin. And so
Right.
there is like the musician kind of scene.
Absolutely.
Um,
And
and
South by Southwest is out there.
it's
So
fun. It's not what it used to be as far
yeah.
as music. It's a lot of it is technology now, and like there's an education element and there's a film element. But
Right.
Austin's cool, and I've been writing recently. I'm working with a little bit with my buddy Joey Duenas, he was in Un Loco, if you remember that band. They were on Maverick
Absolutely.
back in the day. Killer band.
Yeah.
And then he was in A New Revolution as well. But anyway, him and I, we've been friends 30 years. So him and I have been writing a bit together. But yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in the whole, moving home, post divorce, getting through the pandemic, maintaining my band, and still, having the other aspects of my life. Right.
Right.
So this is something we can get into, Dan, that, man, I don't tour like I used to. You know what I mean? The whole,
Yeah.
when you met me and I was doing like the Opiate for the Masses stuff,
Yeah.
I was on the road 9 months.
Yeah.
You
That's
know what I
great.
mean? Trying to maintain a life and a relationship, it's not easy,
Yeah.
and I get it. Like we've all done that, all of us
Absolutely.
musicians.
Oh, and I experienced that in my 20s because
Yeah.
my first professional gig, like professional paid gig, I was 15. And I
Yeah.
went on the road as the drummer for a singing group, opening for Blue Oyster Cult, for Heart, for Styx, for Seals and Crofts in 1978. And by the
Yeah.
time, like 5 years later, when I was 27 years later, 22, started having kids, and my wife at the time, Marcy, who I would do anything for still these days, she said, maybe you shouldn't be at the studio all night and shouldn't go out on the road. Just had the first baby. And I thought, that makes sense. And I moved from doing the touring and the gigging to doing producing and doing music and directing voiceovers for commercials and short films. The whole thing kind of morphed into a different thing. So I totally get that. But you and I, before we started live, we were talking about how your body changes. You're in your 50s, I'm in my 60s, and at
Yeah.
30s, if you ride hard before then up to your 30s, stuff starts changing, and we don't always get the mentorship in that area. We get it with
Yeah.
music and the business part of it and all those,
Yeah.
but all of a sudden stuff starts hurting. I can't pee, or I'm peeing too much, or whatever happens, right?
Yeah.
You went
Well,
through those
that and the
morphs.
physical, but the physical aspect of it, and being a heavy rock metal drummer,
Yeah.
and a lot of my contemporaries who or even people I grew up listening to, like I'm fortunate enough. I always so grateful that my career kind of went the way it did, and I call a lot of my biggest influences, I can call them friends, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I saw Shannon Larkin earlier in the summer, and we just sat there for 2 hours just catching up. Or like, I just saw Ray Luzier or whatever. But all my friends who are like my age or even more, they're like, bro, like we don't advertise it, but the last Channel Zero tour this last summer,
Yeah.
and we did 14 festivals, and they're all 30,000 plus, and
It's
it's
amazing.
it's an hour set. It's awesome. But I mean, I got my shoulder shot up with cortisone because I'm not gonna do surgery on a
Yeah.
on a
Good.
on a year that I'm touring.
Right.
But it's all that kind of stuff, and you just go like, man, this back thing. And then I'm like, oh well, I guess I'll take like 3 physical therapy sessions and see if that's gonna work out that issue before I go on tour,
Right.
and
So have you had this shoulder surgery since? Because you mentioned,
no.
okay,
I
because you
did I
got with
did have
Nadia right after your wrist surgery at that NAMM show
yeah,
2018
yeah.
and talked
And
about
that was
that. But
cool. That was like, it's all good.
yeah,
But
the back's a whole different deal on
in 20
shoulders.
in 22, I ripped my ACL in half. It
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
yeah, that
Kicking
was
ass, right?
I wish. I wish. It was South by Southwest, and me and my buddy were going to go see Joe Rogan or whatever at the Vulcan, and hey man, these scooters, you know what? Like, why
Oh,
walk?
oh,
It's a mile. It's cool. It's not cool.
it's
It's not cool at all. it's like, okay, so ACL reconstruction, and
Wow.
luckily when it happened, like I had an amazing surgeon, and dude, I did physical therapy for almost a year, but it didn't
Wow.
interfere with my playing, but it's still just one more thing. But what's funny is Wendy, my better half, she's when that night that I actually me and my buddy Dylan come home, and he's like helping me up the stairs, and I'm like, I open the door, I'm like, don't be mad. She's like, I'm like, don't be mad. And so we have a saying around my house now that it's like, before we do anything, is this good for me and my family? So getting on a scooter was not good for me or my family.
That's
It's
so
kind of,
funny.
it's
Hey,
amazing.
let's
Yeah.
rewind
Oh yeah.
before we get to
Health.
stuff like the Bubba Bash and your other business. Let's rewind way back and have one question for the rabbit hole. Are you ready?
I'm in.
Why drums? Where did it all start? Why drums? What were your first influences? Let's start there.
Okay. Why drums? Brilliant question. It's one of those open-ended questions that you go, oh well, okay, why drums?
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of time to kind of reflect on this over the last, you know, 20 years, I guess. You just go, why? But for me, it was the one thing that I could latch onto uh, as a kid. I remember being 5 years old, seeing Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park, and I know I'm dating myself. I was born in '73. You know what I mean? So when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I see Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park, and and I remember seeing Buddy Rich on the Muppet Show, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And
That's right.
yeah, and I was like, because the Muppet Show, that was my jam, Animal and the whole thing.
Same here. Yeah.
And I just kind of I never had sticks or anything, but I mean, it sounds like a cliche. It really is.
But we all
But
did it.
I would take my mom's pots and pans, and by the time I was like 9 or 10, I was seriously like I want to play drums, and I really do. And so when I was 10 years old, we went to Valley View Mall in Dallas, Texas. Not there anymore, by the way. And in the window, there was a 3-piece Pearl Maxwin kit for $250 probably. It was a 13-inch rack and a 20-inch kick and a snare. And that's like a 5x14 or something. And so I got that kit and a hi-hat and a 16 and a 16-inch crash. And the cool thing is that they had a set of hats and a 16-inch crash, because I was like, I'm over there looking at like all the double A's and the HH and like all the badass Sabian shit. But they had a used one. It was like this beat to shit set of HH hats and a 16 double A rock crash that was probably bent
They were
or whatever.
broken in.
Yeah. So anyway, dude, I will ramble. My ADD kicks in. But so for me, as soon as I could, Dan, attach to that, and my formative years, like when I was younger, man, it was kind of, and I haven't talked about this publicly so much, but man, I had a pretty chaotic childhood. You know what I mean? Like it's my brother and I, we made it through and we're both successful, but after a year and a half of therapy, I can kind of reflect and see and just look at that time in my life for what it was. But
Yeah.
I can honestly say that's like, if I didn't have drums, if I didn't have, because I wasn't getting that security, I wasn't getting that let's say safety, that sense of
Yeah.
of consistency, of safety, of like you have a routine and everything is going to be this. And when you're growing up in that, like I had this thing and I'm pretty good at it. And I know that if I keep at it, I'm going to get even better. And so that first kit when I was 10, and that's all I did. And then I got a paper route. My mom was like, that kit's fine. You don't need another one. So I got a paper route. And this is another thing. This is Texas people will remember this. I threw papers for the Dallas Times Herald, and I had 92 customers on my route, and
Wow.
I ran that goddamn paper route for 2 years and signed all my checks over. I think I made $113 a month.
Wow.
And then finally, at the end, my mom went on the newspaper, at that point it was either the Times Herald or the Dallas Morning News. And she found some guy who was selling it was like it was 4, 5, 6, 7. It was like a 7-piece pearl export in black.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was my first like real kit.
And we're talking early 80s, right?
Yeah. So I would have been like 11, almost 12. So I would have been 12. And again, Dan, like that was the thing. I got that kit, and then I was in the garage, and I was like, and it was Motley Crue and Van Halen and AC/DC and Kiss and just Rush. And I couldn't play Rush back then, to be honest. But for me, that was it. It was headphones, and it was just, and and being diagnosed with ADHD at such a young age, like my mom was not. I never got treatment for that, put it that way. So the way I would self-regulate is I would just that's all I did was
blow
just
out the pipes,
live, breathe, and eat drums. And
Yeah.
I mean, my grandmother, because I miss her so much, but my grandma, every year for my birthday, from the time I was like 10 years old, her Christmas present to me was a subscription to Modern Drummer. So you know how that was for us, like me and you, and you were in Modern Drummer like back in the day. And I remember when I got my first feature, I was like, okay, I've made it. I made it. I don't need a platinum record.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I made it. I have a feature in Modern Drummer, and I would read just cover back to back. So hopefully that answers your question a bit.
It does.
For me, it was a visceral thing. I could get my aggression out. And it was just cool.
It was
hitting shit with sticks is cool,
right?
Yeah.
Your balance, yeah. Well, 100%. I want to show everybody a little.
So there's that
added up to, and we're going to show some video, okay?
Hey, I'm here, man.
So here's 7 with Channel 0. Here's the first one. So not only is that great playing, but I love that you can see the fire in broad daylight.
Yeah. That's a thing, man. And
that's so cool.
That's our hit, right?
So here's a drum solo by 7. Check this out.
Oh shit.
You're in such amazing shape. Is that all from drumming, or do you do other workouts and things like that to stay in
I
shape?
I hit the gym. I try 3 days a week, but I usually I hit two. But
Yeah.
try three.
Hmm.
Dan, to be honest, man, it is a lot of playing drums. I quit smoking cigarettes 3 years ago.
Right.
Still on this stuff. I know
What is that? I didn't see that. What is it?
oh, it's vaping.
Oh,
Just
okay. Okay.
4 milligrams of nicotine.
Yeah,
Yeah, helps with the anxiety. It's good.
I get it.
No, but I appreciate the compliment. It's
Yeah.
like when you get this age, you're like, and
Yeah.
you're trying to eat well, you're trying to sleep, and I don't work for this company, but I've been wearing a Whoop strap for like the last year,
Uh-huh.
and if anybody's interested, it's an application, and it shows you down to the minute, like what you sleep every night, how many times you wake up.
Really?
It has your recovery. Yeah,
Oh, do you
it
know
has your
them?
strain. No, I
Okay.
just,
I'll look it
I
up.
just,
That
I
very much
just
interests me.
Whoop,
Okay.
WHOOP, and I wasn't familiar with them. And then a few years ago, like Rogan was talking about him on one of his podcasts, and I researched it, and it's really cool, man. A lot of athletes, because it just gives you data.
Yeah.
But as far as staying in shape, man, that's I don't have children, so me and Wendy don't have children, so we have two dogs, and that's our kids.
I've seen them on Facebook. Let's talk about that because we have three rescue dogs and two rescue cats. The
Oh
dogs we
wow,
got each at 3 months old, 9 months apart, and the
wow,
oldest one now is still only three and a half.
oh
So they're
wow,
3.5, 2.5, and 1.5. Yeah,
I
and they're
love that.
like our children together that we've had. So talk about yours. What have you got?
We have Wendy had a Russell Terrier Beagle mix
Hmm.
previous to us coming together, and then when we moved down to Austin, there's a independent dog rescue up in Georgetown. It's about
Hmm.
45 minutes north of Austin, and this little creature, man,
A creature.
he's like a yeah, man, he's like a I don't even know, man. He's like a Bichon Frise poodle, but
Oh.
there's other stuff in there, and I don't know if y'all can see
Oh,
him.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he's my guy,
Awesome.
and
Beautiful.
yeah. So dogs are the best part of life, man. I
Yeah,
think.
I cannot even use the word pets. We call them animal
No.
companions or our
Yeah.
babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really like that, man. It's. I mean, I have, you know, and my dog that I have in Sweden, he's still thriving, and he's 11 now, but
Oh, wow.
yeah, so he stayed in Sweden. I wasn't going to uproot his life, but he's doing well, and everything's cool.
Good.
Everything's great on that. But yeah, man, trying to just to put a period on that last thing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like trying to stay healthy. Um, and it's not easy. It's not
it's
easy, man.
work.
I like burgers just like everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but in addition to that, though, Dan and I alluded to it earlier, but it's like being physically healthy, but also being like kind of
Mentally
mentally
help.
mentally healthy. Like I never knew, and this is a different rabbit hole, but I never knew that there was even. I always knew that help was out there, but I didn't really take it serious. I'm like, that's not going to work for me. There's too much going on. This is
Right.
a bad neighborhood up here, and I should not be hanging out in that neighborhood by myself. But I still never took the steps that it took to actually figure out that, man, that maybe talking to somebody would help me, and not just with childhood stuff, but also just dealing with life, love,
Just life.
career. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
being on the road all those years, and um, just negative behaviors that you feel like you're on this hamster wheel. You're like, how
Right.
am I in this? Um, and so for me, like it was my midlife crisis or whatever. Like I turned 50, and I tattooed my entire throat, and I bought a watch I didn't need, and started going to therapy, you know, and
Yeah.
ordered another snare drum, as you
Yeah.
do. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
man, that that 8x14 chrome over brass DW, I think I need that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm still with DW, man. Still with Sabian, DW, Vader,
That's cool. But it's great that you
Aquarian. Yeah.
Oh
Go
yeah,
ahead.
same here. It's great that you recognized that and you embraced it and you allowed it to work for you because that's the only way it works. I mentioned to you, my wife is a therapist.
Of course.
Great for me and not so good for her. But
Oh shit.
the but the only way it works is if you allow it to. That's the important
Do the
part.
work.
Yeah,
To do the work.
you got to
Which
let
is,
the work in and then do the work. Yeah,
but
just
it's
like
brutal. Like Dan, looking yourself in the mirror and really taking that inventory and going, man,
yeah,
I did some fucked up things. You know what I mean? I was not the best version of myself
yeah,
in those times. But for me, it's all about, like, taking personal accountability for it, and
yeah.
failure is, and whether you're messing up on stage or, you end up getting divorced, it's like, I don't look at my, getting divorced as a failure, but
Right.
it's definitely like, hey, I learned from it and I figured out that if I'm going to move forward in a positive way, if I'm going to ever be happy in a romantic relationship, I'm going to have to fix, maybe the problem is me, right? Like, the call is coming from inside the house. Remember that movie? You're
Yes,
like,
and
you're like,
I was
the call is coming from inside the house. And I'm like, that call's coming from in here, man. Like,
yeah, and that's the house.
you're, yeah, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
You're
and
like, what are you doing?
I was gonna
So
say to you that, there really is no it's all perspective, and there's really no such thing as failure. It's how you take it, and to me, it's all learning experiences.
yeah.
Like my other marriages that I had before Enja were not failures. You either grow closer or you grow together or you grow apart. And
Mm,
we were great during the times that we were great. And otherwise we learned that we weren't a fit anymore. That's all,
mm,
and that's what's
yeah.
important. And there are experiences like others that you take with you. And like you said, you learn from them and take those learnings up farther up the road.
Hmm.
That's what's
Hmm.
important.
Yeah, for
Cool. I
sure.
want to show another video of you playing.
Okay.
This
Okay, man. I
one,
have no idea what you're doing, but
I know, me neither. Like I'm
ah,
just pulling levers, twisting
I
knobs,
love it.
flipping
I
switches. Here
love it.
we go. This
There
is
is probably a
drum
Bubba
cam.
Bash thing. Oh,
Well,
drum
this
cam.
one is drum cam channel 0Y. Here we go. 7. Check him out, folks. Check this out. Get your sticks out, folks. If you're
That's the
not a
punk
drummer,
rock. That's the punk rock song.
yeah,
Just
play on
another
your
one.
lap if you need to. Play along with this. Just chopping away at that. And I love your setup. There's so much more latitude than there is longitude. It's like everything's
Yeah.
very much level and even. You got your
Yeah.
stackers, your extra high remote hi-hats. It's such a cool
Yeah.
setup. Was there an
Thank you.
influence to you for that by another
Well, I
drummer?
think we talked about that previously too. It's like high school band. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
marching. Everything is low and flat. And to be honest, man, like, the older I've gotten, it's like, when I was in my 20s, my cymbals were like, and
Right.
now literally my cymbals are like here, like,
Yeah. Your
and
movements are more
everything's,
economized, right?
well, no, because I'm wasting all kinds of energy every time I do this. Every time I'm hitting myself in the head, or I'm like coming up like that. But for me, And next time you see Chris Stanky from Sabian, you can tell him I said this. Be like, I got sick of him bitching at me for sending him broke cymbals all the goddamn
Oh,
time.
that's hilarious.
And
Oh my
it's
God.
hilarious to be like, he'd be like, okay, Luzier, what are you doing? And but man, seriously, like Stanky's like one of my favorite people on earth. Him and Jules Thomas both.
Yeah.
Lowering everything, it was like it just changes. You know, it's not so much that it's more like
Yeah, you're literally
and
striking the
still,
cymbal differently.
yeah, and I got more. You know, and I'm using big stuff. I mean, everything's 19s and 20s, and 21-inch chinas and 15-inch hats, and
yeah,
and I'm getting so much more movement and sound and power out of that. And visually, it's cool. And I know it's not hip to say that. It's not. It's
okay,
like a lot of, but a lot of the elitist kind of drummers, they're like, a kit should never look cool. I'm like, well, but it can. Like when I had pictures of Tommy Lee, with that white pearl kit on the Theater of Pain tour, and I had that thing postered,
you know what?
or
Drums
Cozy Pal's like Sabbath kit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
like,
drums are so cool that a 4-piece jazz kit can melt anybody.
Cool.
I mean, seriously. Yeah, we have the largest vanity palette of any instrument other than, okay, so maybe Keith Emerson and Rick Wakeman can kind of weigh in with 12 keyboards. But other than that, even a 3-piece drum set's bigger than any guitar or bass rig. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's true. And it's fun. I mean, to be honest, Dan, like when I'm playing, do my channel kit it's fun. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's an alphabet of sound.
It's cool, and it's just gigantic, and it's impressive, and it's almost like when you go see Korn or when you go see Dream Theater. It's awesome that Portnoy's back in, and the kit is almost part of the show because that people come to see that. They're like
the stage set, yeah.
I mean the whole thing. But when I'm rehearsing, like if I'm just doing like just basic raw kit, it's 1 up, it's 2 down, couple crashes, hat, china, ride. Blah blah, and I can pretty much do anything with that. Like I filled in for Jamie Miller with Snot in 2019 for 3 shows in Japan because he was out. Jamie, also another one of my favorite drummers ever, best dudes ever. He was out with Bad Religion, so iconic punk rock band.
Absolutely.
Against the Grain is still like I think one of the most iconic records ever. Anyway, so it was funny because Mikey's like, what are you going to play? I'm like, well, I'm going to play what Jamie played on the record. It's going to be 2 crashes, hat, china, ride, and 1 up, 2 down, done. Yeah. And he was like, I could tell Doling was like relieved. He was like, because we're not doing the Portnoy kit in Japan. You know?
Hey, we've got like 12 minutes. And
before we should talk about the Bubba Bash. Because,
I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about your flip side in business. And I need to squeeze in the 7 Antonopoulos fun fact segment. So we got 12 minutes to do all that. Let's start with the Bubba Bash. Go.
Okay. This will be the 3rd year. It's in Keswick, Pennsylvania. There's a band called Why Not.
Yep.
And they are amazing, and they are a Rush tribute band. But so what it is, and like I said, it was 2 years ago. It was basically Michael Mossback, who worked for Rush for many years, and got together with those folks and just brought in a bunch of cool drummers to pay tribute to our, I can't even say Neil's name without just the gravity of like what he contributed.
It's hard to quantify.
Drumming. Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's you can't even say. But they brought myself, Mike Portnoy, Ed Toth, Jason Bittner. I know you know Jason.
Oh yeah.
And we all just do 1 or 2 songs, and like the first year, I think I did Closer to the Heart, and last year, and I did Free Will, and I did Limelight this year.
This year he's doing Smoke on the Water. Oh wait.
I picked a really difficult song, a really iconic song. I don't know what I was thinking, but that's on February 4th.
Cool.
Not February 4th. Sorry. What am I thinking? January 4th.
January 4th.
there's a flyer here. You could put it in the thing underneath that's
yeah.
on YouTube.
We'll put that in the Steven's going to put that in the notes. In fact, give me just a sec here, Steve. There you go, Steve. And we'll put it also, we'll advertise it all over the Drum Talk TV channels too, leading up to it. Happy to do that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And so the last thing is that we're all multifaceted, right? Like drumming is still me. Like till the day I die, I'm a drummer.
Yeah.
I identified a drummer. It's what always gave me a sense of self-worth when that was the only thing I could do. Whereas now I'm kind of a little bit more well-rounded.
Yeah.
But I stayed in the beverage space because I worked in bars basically my entire life. Like if I wasn't touring, I was, managing bars, bartending, doing all that stuff. So I handle market management for Texas for a independently owned Tennessee-based whiskey company, and it's cool, man, to be able to have like home life, be able to have like just be truly happy with my partner, with my life, with where I am.
Not let it out of suitcases.
Well, but you know what? That's fun.
Yeah.
When I go to Europe for 5-6 weeks, hey, that's cool, man. I get to scratch that itch, right? And do all those festivals and do the thing. And it's fun to get back with the guys and we're a family again. And then we're gonna crush all these festivals.
Right.
And then everybody can kind of come home and still have a normal life. And Mikey can take his son to school, and you know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And I don't even want to know what kind of fun facts you
have. Well, actually, here we go. That's here we go with the 7 Antonopoulos fun fact segment. So here's the question. When you're not touring, you're not rehearsing, you're not playing, you're not building your amazing kit, when you're not recording, composing, doing anything, having anything to do with music, give us a peek behind the curtain. What do you like to do? Do you collect something? You mentioned going to the gym, but what do you do with your lady? What do you do with the dogs? What do you do on your own away from music, Seven?
Well, me and Wendy, she kind of turned me on to paddleboarding, and I love that. And right in Austin, you can go like literally 10 minutes from our house. Like
they do it in the street there.
Well, you're in Lady Bird Lake. I love that.
That's cool.
A lot of it too, man. Like I go down, like I've spent through the therapy journey and all that, like diving in and just reading a ton. There's so much information out there and so much insight. And then, yeah, man, I took my first golf lesson a couple weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And, it's weird because it's like playing drums, right? And then you're trying to get your swing and you're trying to, it's like the thing.
So, hey, I have a recommendation for you. If you want some golfing inspiration and therapy all in one, get the audiobook by Alice Cooper himself called Golf Monster.
Okay.
It's how he got past alcoholism and drug abuse. He took up golf, and ever since then, decades ago, he plays every day, no matter what, at 7 a.m., no matter where he is in the world. And he's a pro-level golfer.
He's amazing.
An amazing story.
I toured with him, man. I know. I mean, I wasn't playing for him, but I was in a British pop rock band, and we were out with Alice Cooper for 5 months.
Yeah, check it out. It's
2011.
Great. It's great. Yeah. My favorite hole is the windmill hole or the pink castle.
Oh, the pink castle, not the crocodile one.
Right. I told Nico McBrain, because I know he's a huge golfer. The first time I interviewed him, I said, "Oh yeah, I golf too." I said, "Yeah, I play in like the low 60s." He's like, "Oh my God, really?" I said, "Yeah, if it gets warmer than that outside, I'm not playing."
I love it. Well, man, I can't thank you enough for having me.
Yeah, man. Great.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you, man.
Thank you. I'm so glad we had time to catch up in this forum on Drum Talk TV. Folks, thank you so much for joining Seven Antonopoulos and myself, Dan Schindler, here on Drum Talk TV. We have so much going on with the wind down of 2024, and we will be pumping what Seven has going on with the end of can't believe I'm even saying it. Channel 0, but we got till 2026, the end of
26. Yeah.
We got the Bubba Bash, other stuff that Seven will be doing. We'll stay in touch with them. So stay on board. Thank you so much. And Seven, stay on the line after we disconnect from the audience. Okay.
I'm on it.
All right. Thanks
appreciate y'all.
everybody so much. Happy holidays. I can't believe I'm saying